Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. The security situation of the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon worsens as militants of the Nigerian terrorist sect Boko Haram increase attacks on villages. The SG of the Mayo Denai division indicates that the Mayo Chanaga division says that attacks of Boko Haram and militants has spectacularly increased in 3 divisions of the far north region of the country, and inhabitants are escaping violence to seek refuge out of their villages. Insecurity also on the rise in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Security forces of law and order have arrested at least 16 persons suspected of harassing persons around the old bridge over River Uri. Administrative officials in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon are sending distress calls to the Yaoundé administration over the worsening security situation in several parts of the region. Militants of the Nigerian terrorist sector increasing attacks on villagers and, of course, destroying properties, abducting and killing persons. The senior divisional officer of the Mayo Chanaga division says that Boko Haram activities have tremendously increased in at least 3 divisions of the far north region of the country. Details in this report by Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
These inhabitants of Hishtoa village in Mozogo subdivision of the Mayo Chanaga division, far north region of Cameroon, does not know the whereabouts of his son, who was kidnapped alongside 2 other young boys by Boko Haram terrorist militants during an attack in his village. The terrorists in that same attack assassinated 7 other villagers, he says.
They killed 7 persons and abducted 3 others, including my son.
Hishtoa village inhabitants like those of Toro, Meshasha and several other villages in Mokolo and Mozogo subdivisions have all been chased away from their villages by Boko Haram terrorist activities. They have now adopted a new lifestyle of going down their villages in search of food during the day and back to spend the night in the mountains because of persistent nightly attacks from Boko Haram.
There is general panic among the population, and they are forced to run away every night for safety. We want the government to reinforce security by creating more security posts and send more soldiers.
De renforcer le nombre de membres de militaires dans les postes déjà créés.
À chaque moment qu'il y a attaque, on les appelle. Ils disent que ce n'est pas dans notre zone.
Each time we call soldiers to intervene in a terrorist attack, they say it is not in their zone. We called the military posts at Macheda. They told us that the B is the force in charge of that area.
Alors que toute population de Rome ne dort pas à la maison. Chaque nuit.
The use of vigilante groups against the terrorists has not also been very effective, as 16 of them have already been killed by Boko Haram, according to members.
16 membres du comité de vigilance ont été tués par.
The people say they will not return to their villages if soldiers are not sent to occupy strategic security positions. Grouping the divisional officers of the 7 subdivisions of the Mayo Chanaga division in a security coordination meeting, the senior divisional officer for the Mayo Chanaga, David Dalodibango, presented a disturbing balance sheet of a devastating and increasing Boko Haram attacks in the area.
Nous assistons à une remontée spectaculaire.
We are living a spectacular rise in the activities of Boko Haram in 3 divisions of the far north region. This increase has led to a serious loss in human lives, material loss, and massive displacement. We have also been seeing a rise in kidnappings for ransoms and armed robbery.
Et les braquages à domicile se multiplient à l'intérieur du département.
The far north region of Cameroon has been living the pains of Boko Haram terrorist activities for 8 years. Boko Haram announced their presence in Cameroon by launching their first attacks in 2014.
Insecurity is also a major problem in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Forces of law and order stepping up the fight against banditry in the town. As a result of the operations, they have arrested at least 16 persons. Accused of harassing persons, trafficking and consumption of hard drugs around the second bridge or the first bridge over River Vuri, and the operation to arrest these suspects was led by the head of the 9th District Police Station, Commissioner Amugu Jean Sylvain. Details with Smanjika and Gabriel.
At the shores of River Vuri lies this house that has been constructed for the consumption of drugs. It is at this house that security forces arrested 8 individuals smoking marijuana and some taking cocaine. An informant gave the scoop to security forces of the 9th District Police Station.
Avec l'aménagement du nouveau site des camionneurs et
with the creation of a layout for lorries to station, some individuals have decided to settle there not for good reasons, but for them to traffic drugs and consume them. We got information that a certain Richard has opened a place where some people come and consume drugs day and night. They later become dangerous to road users.
drogue, surtout nuit et jour. Et ces individus par la suite deviennent des dangers pour les usagers qui traversent le pont sur le Vuri.
The house, situated some 800 meters away from the new bridge across River Vuri, is the paradise for these suspects after stealing from persons using the old bridge across River Vuri. The operation, according to the leader, was an order from the regional delegation of national security headed by Raymond Esogo.
Notre hiérarchie nous a prescrit
Our hierarchy has asked us to always mount pressure on zones within criminal activities are in the hike, and we have started. So we shall be on the field permanently for them to feel our presence.
faut être permanent sur le terrain et garder cette efficacité-là pour que tous les coins et recoins où il y a ces trafics et où il y a ces malfrats soient suffisamment inquiétés.
At their hideout, security forces discovered cocaine, Indian hemps, and cards being used for gambling. After the arrest of these 8, they later lured their friends to security forces that completed to 16. All were transferred to the 9th District Police Station in Daido for further investigation before an imminent transfer to prison.
And several young people involved in the violence were arrested earlier today here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. They are also part of those who are accused of orchestrating the increasing crime wave within the society here in Douala. We'll be coming back to that report in a short while. And of course, those are some of the young people who were arrested earlier today. They are said to be involved in what is commonly known as the microbe phenomenon in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Young people involved in violence, attacking persons in different parts of the town of Douala. They were arrested by elements of the National Gendarmerie. We shall be coming back to this in greater details. And within the context of worsening security in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, private oil mills around the Limbe plantation or the Limbe estate of palm oil plantations in the Kondo-Titindian division southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have been destroyed, and accusing fingers have been pointing towards the management of palm oil plantations. And the general manager of palm oil plantations says the company has nothing to do with the destruction of the private oil mills, and he indicates that the private oil mills are partners of the company. Take a listen to him. He spoke to Derijato.
Smallholders are partners to PAMO. The relationship that smallholders have with PAMO dates back many, many years ago. These have always been, in fact, most of them, if not all, are where they are today, thanks to the support that the company gave them. It was an initiative, that is the PAMO model. They are community-oriented. So we have supported these smallholders in their activities. We give them seeds, we give them technical support so that they can extend their plantations and sell their crop to PAMO. So we have never been competitors. We have instead been partners. In fact, in our budget, every beginning of financial year, we allocate a certain tonnage of crop, which is supposed to be supplied by the smallholders. And it's most often about 30% of our estimated production. So you can imagine the relationship that we have with these people. And I want to tell you guys that recently, the company is championing considerations, actions to try and get the smallholder represented during her board meetings, to really incorporate them. And you see, the model is a very productive one, has been very, very productive, and we're looking forward to building our cooperation, building our collaboration with these smallholders to such an extent that the company can begin to relinquish her activities in the plantation and empower the smallholders so that they too can have that economic independence. The community can grow, the community can enjoy economic activities, and the company is always there to pay them, buy off their crop, and some of them have even confessed that it is more economical to them to harvest and sell to the company than to try to mill, because they have certain overheads that end up making their costs very high. So when we got word that the implementation of the SDO circular was causing some backlash and negative sentiments on the ground, we quickly contacted the SDO and said it seems as if all is not going well in Limbe and Ekondo Titi environs. There's need for a quick and prompt intervention. And he too, being a community-loving man, a man who loves his people, quickly reacted, reached out to the DO and suspended that particular operation to give him time to evaluate and see how to carry it forward. And the cry which the smallholders had was that the implementation was too prompt.
Inhabitants of Bumaka in Buea subdivision, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, take to the streets protesting over inadequate electric energy supply in their neighborhood. They marched on the streets of Buea today, and Derijato was there. He now reports.
From their homes in Bumaka neighborhood in Buea subdivision to the divisional officer's office for Buea, these women, good, young and old, brought with them their plight.
We don't be for 2 months of Bumaka, we not get light. Chief Street Bumaka to be precise, we not get light. We don't tire.
For months now, they have been going out without electricity. And the divisional officer for Buea sent his assistant to attend to them. And after listening and discussing with these women, a deal was finally arrived at that latest Friday, power will be reinstated.
They don't bad, even who picking there, they get to write GCE, they write first school, the university, they already do their CAs. They not feel read.
We have suffered, our children can't read. Everywhere is dark, coupled with the insecurity, has exposed Bumaka, making the zone very dangerous, they told the administrator before leaving her office.
Kabangwala Ejid, National President of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, and member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society Platform, decries government's inability or failure to handle or better still manage the security crisis killing Tens of thousands of persons in the northwest, southwest, far north, east regions of the Republic of Cameroon and other issues increasing within the Cameroonian society. She is one of 20 Cameroonian women leaders who have written to the United Nations Security Council asking that the Anglophone crisis and other security challenges in the country be discussed officially and measures taken to help restore normalcy in those areas afflicted by crises for close to 5 years for the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and about 10 years for the far north region with the Boko Haram insecurity. And they also wrote to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, over what is today known as the COVID gate, the embezzlement or alleged embezzlement of billions of francs CFA by some state officials, money that was meant for the fight against coronavirus. And she was speaking to the Inside over the weekend. Details with Charles Comment.
Little portion that they have audited, the mismanagement is astronomical.
Talking to senior journalist Babila Jonathan on the weekend program The Inside on Equinoxe television, the president of the Cameroon's People's Party, Edith Kawala, says the United Nations Security Council is not paying attention to security challenges in Cameroon. Reason why she and 19 other women have joined forces in writing 2 separate letters addressed to the United Nations Security Council and the International Monetary Fund.
We did this, one, because the Anglophone crisis has been going on for 5 years. But the Boko Haram crisis has been going on for longer, for close to 10 years today. We do not want the situation to aggravate to a point where the UN Security Council starts to meet to see how they are going to do a peacekeeping mission, see how they are going to send blue helmets here. No. If they act now, we can prevent such a situation.
She further warns that the socio-economic situation in Cameroon is gradually escalating due to social tensions, a country which is also considered a pillar of the Central African economy. Moreover, she says there are worrying signs, considering that the entire sub-region and its neighboring countries are in crisis.
When we look around the sub-region, Nigeria right now is a boiling point of violence. There is violence going on in all parts of Nigeria. We have the Central African Republic, where we have been receiving refugees for over 10 years and the violence continues. Now, since the last couple of months, we have Chad in a very unstable situation. So when we look at that sub-regional situation, we felt like the Security Council seems to be ignoring our part of the world. Why?
Edith Kawala also believes that there are so many social ills that need to be undone within the Cameroonian society, like the decongestion of prisons, of which, in her opinion, harbors so many innocent persons.
Number one, de-escalate the tensions. How can the government do this? Release non-violent political prisoners. We have innocent people who are caught up in the trap, who have been arrested because of Boko Haram. Non-violent people, they are in jail today. We have hundreds. Our last count for the Anglophone crisis is over 400 people who are in jail today. About 155 of them were arrested in 2017. In 2017, there were no arms. Nobody had yet taken up arms. So these people were arrested before the armed conflict. Why are they still in jail?
It should also be recalled that this initiative put in place by these prominent women is not supported by all Cameroonians. Lately, a group of other women in Cameroon say they dissociate themselves from this unpatriotic approach and still believe the Cameroonian government is the sole interlocutor of international institutions.
And another person whose arrest has been described as illegal, unlawful, and his immediate release being demanded by human rights defenders and civil society leaders in the Republic of Cameroon is a priest of the Roman Catholic Church. He's named Reverend Father Sylvester Garbansa, priest of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus Pastoral Zone, Vekovi, that is in the Dongamantum Division, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. He's a priest in the Kumbu Diocese of the Roman Catholic Church. He has been in detention since the 4th of June 2021, and he was arrested by government forces accused of collaborating with non-state armed group militants or fighters in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, and he had been arrested and tortured at least twice by non-state armed group militants or fighters for daring to open the Catholic school in Vekovi. And now he has been arrested by government soldiers and brought to Bamenda. Information reaching us indicates that he will be appearing before the Bamenda court of the Bamenda military court to answer charges of terrorism tomorrow, and there are calls coming from all quarters demanding for the release of the man of God. We should talk more about this in the second segment of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. Time for us to go over to Limbe in the southwest region, where Davidson Maimo, a correspondent, files in updates on the accident which occurred over the weekend around the area known as Moliwe, and several persons were reported dead. But our reporter says there were no persons. Nobody died in that accident, but rather several persons were injured. His report.
Contrary to some sources on social media, that many persons are reported dead following an accident along the Moliwe stretch of road in Limbe. 20 persons with minor and major injuries were brought to the regional hospital in Limbe. Dr. Nyenti is a director.
For the very severe ones, there were actually 5, and we actually evacuated one to Douala, referred one to the General Hospital Douala, and they were attended to 4 here. They are still in the intensive care unit of the hospital.
The incident that brought out the divisional officer of Limbe 1 subdivision, Acha Kwenti, and the mayor to the Limbe 1 municipality, Eposim Boye, saw medical personnel at the Limbe Regional Hospital in a well-coordinated action work for the survival of the victim.
No case of death was recorded. We do have an emergency response plan. We do mobilize staff who are not on duty, as well as staff working in less busy areas of the hospital to come to the emergency department and give a helping hand.
A good number of the victims were Muslims who were returning to Tiko after attending a marriage ceremony in Limbe. Sources say the wallet and purse of some victims containing identification documents and mobile phones were carted away by thieves in the process of rescuing them at the scene, making it difficult for medic and security to properly identify them.
We try to stabilize our patients without requiring them to pay before service, so that we don't end up with a patient who doesn't have access to care because they didn't have funds, because in an emergency situation.
The accident involved a 19-seater bus and a private RAV4 small jeep model. The cause of the accident is yet to be determined by road officers, with overspeeding speculated as a primary cause.
Now, in news out of Cameroon, last weekend was a bloody one in Burkina Faso. Burkinabe officials say armed men killed at least 160 people in an attack on a village in the northern part of the country. Homes and the local market were burnt down during the raid on Solhan village Saturday. No group has said it was behind the violence, but Islamist attacks are increasingly common in the country, especially in border regions. Yesterday, 160 bodies were reportedly recovered from what local officials in Solhan described as 3 mass graves. Hundreds of children are still missing after the volcano eruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Katsi Euronews.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, hundreds of parents are still searching for children who became separated from them as people fled an erupting volcano. Around 400,000 people left the North Kivu capital of Goma after a brief one-day eruption of Mount Nyiragongo on May 22nd. The tremors died down, but many children are still missing. We left Goma with our neighbours. My sisters and me were tied together with a loincloth so as not to get lost. When we arrived, we were separated from our neighbours. Later, one of our neighbours, who was in Goma, noticed us and asked where our mum was. I replied that our mum had stayed in Goma. He picked us up and took us to a host family. The International Committee of the Red Cross has set up 6 contact points in the district to help with the search. The UN children's organisation UNICEF says more than 300 children are still waiting to be reunited with their families.
Mali's coup leader Colonel Assimi Goïta has been sworn in as president of a transitional government. According to analysts, this solidifies his grip on power in the West African nation after his second coup d'etat in 9 months. The inauguration ceremony in the capital Bamako today came as Mali faces increasing isolation from the international community over the junta's power grab. The African Union has already suspended Mali's membership, and France has temporarily suspended its joint military operation with the Malian military in an effort to exert pressure on Goïta to step down. Colonel Goïta first took over power in August 2020 by overthrowing Mali's democratically elected president. He then agreed to a transitional government led by a civilian president and prime minister. But 2 weeks ago, he ousted those civilian leaders after they announced a cabinet reshuffle that sidelined 2 junta supporters without consulting him. And that is it for the first part of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. We are receiving a clergyman, Reverend B. Christian. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Babala, for inviting me. Thank you very much for participating in your program. I'm very delighted to be here.
A servant of God like you is going to be facing the military court in Bamenda tomorrow to answer charges of terrorism. The Reverend Father in the Kumbu was arrested by soldiers and brought to Bamenda. When men of God become targets,
I'm so surprised. Anyway, I'm not surprised because since the war started, we have seen a lot of challenges that goes with our religious circle, where sometimes, like in Kukunotiti, where military men enter the church and they have to bullet the things, destroy them, other things, and a lot of men of God have suffered. Men of God have been arrested. Their churches have been, been looted in one way or the other, and I'm just so confused with the way the government is going about with this crisis. I once said that government should leave clergymen out of their issues. I don't know when clergymen have become the source of or the communication center of the government, where they think that information are being passed through the clergymen, or accusing the clergymen of leaking informing the separatists about what. I don't understand it.
And this particular case is even more confusing because he had been arrested. Reverend Father Sylvester Ngaba had been arrested at least 2 times by non-state armed group fighters who accuse him of collaborating with soldiers, and now he's arrested by soldiers who are accusing him of collaborating with the non-state armed groups.
The problem in our country is that, or in between this crisis, that we don't have intelligence, and people are approaching the crisis with a lot of anger and a lot of arrogance. And that is the problem that we are facing today, because I believe that when the government have challenges to overcome the powerhouse of the separatists, they turn it to the population, they turn it to the clergymen, and they start to find allegation to give them and to tell them that they have passing information and this one. That same man that, as we learn, that have been kidnapped or be taken by the separatists, and now the militaries, which means us, we are now at the mercy of God, because nobody is there. We thought that the state stand a better position to protect the clergymen, to protect the church, to protect the civilians, but in my survey, it's discovered that the reverse is true. And Mr. Babel, I must say that this is our statement, and some of the top-ranking military are guilty of this crime, because they commit crime every day in one way or the other. I believe that the military court is for military personnel, that they rape, they loot, they burn down houses, they kill innocent civilians, because thousands of civilians have been killed in this crisis. That court is for them. It's not for people, civilians like you and I, or for a clergyman to go and stand in the military court. What would I don't understand. They say, I don't think that goes on with this country, that this country have been hijacked by some people, and they put the name called state. When you want to talk the state, you are terrorizing the state, you are going against the state. Which is the state? This country is governed by law, and the constitution is what we, the clergymen, we depend on. It's not about the state. What the state is doing is not really our concern. We are focused on the law, and the state is violating the law of the country, and that is one of the things that we are so confused, because when you go arrest a man that you say he have released information to the separatists, that same man was kidnapped by the separatists several times, and I understand what they are saying. What they are saying, but I believe that there's a law that if somebody does something that is wrong, the law have to take its course. And I don't think that a civilian need to go to the military court because of the allegation that you have given to a clergyman. I have said several times that the state and the military personnel should leave the clergymen out of this crisis.
And many Cameroonians,
we want peace, Mr. Babala. We the clergymen want peace. All what we are doing is for one peace. I believe that sometimes if you struggle to have a clergyman on your side of the government, and because the clergymen want to be on the, to say the truth and stand on the part of truth, it becomes a target, which is very wrong. It is very, very wrong.
And many Cameroonians are finding themselves in this difficult situation in between the hammer and the anvil, in between the fire and a deep sea, in between soldiers and non-state armed group fighters arrested by or picked up, kidnapped by non-state armed groups and tortured more than 2 times, and then now picked up by soldiers. But it is often said, and it is internationally recognized, that in a crisis situation, in a war situation, churches and of course men of God are more or less no-go areas, forbidden for both sides. But today, when we look at the situation degenerating to the extent of churches being attacked, as you indicated, men of God kidnapped, men of God arrested by soldiers, by non-state fighters, and all of that, what can we say about the evolution of the conflict?
Well, I can just say that those who are carrying those activities, whether it's the government, the military, or the state, the armed guys, they are guilty of war crime. Because I believe that so far as war is concerned, as you earlier said, churches, hospitals, and schools are no-go zone. You don't go there. You don't enter there. Even if you are running behind a criminal, and the person enters there, the person is safe. You don't enter there but we see military men go to hospital with guns to bring around and bring out people from the hospital that this is a separatist and this one. You see sometimes they even use hospitals, schools as military base. I don't understand what is going wrong. You see like in Banga, they use military schools. In the Kumbe, the same thing, and all those places were burned down by the separatists. I want to reiterate that both sides, they should respect the norms, they should respect the law, they should respect the international law, and they should make sure that these places that we just mentioned, the schools, the hospitals,
churches, schools and hospitals,
churches, they should not go around there. Despite what? Because first of all, you are traumatizing the population, and when you traumatize the population, the government will feel that as I'm traumatizing the population, I'm gaining grounds, because in the long run they'll be afraid. But let me tell you the truth for the government: people are having more courage to even do things that they were not doing before. Because of what? The trauma that they are going through. You see people are involved, or some people, like some of these guys are kidnapping, so kidnappers, they are kidnapping. Some of them are not separatists, but those guys that have just got courage because they feel that they have been traumatized, they don't have job, and they feel that let us do this, let us kidnap for ransom. Sometimes some of them are even state men who have put groups there, to finance them in order to counteract the separatists. And all what they are doing in that domain, in that action, this common man, me and you, we are suffering. And the government, I'm talking mostly on the government because the government have the responsibility. Even the separatist is doing something, criminally, or burn the houses, killing civilians, the government should be the contrary, because it is the responsibility of the government to protect the population. It is their responsibility. They have said many times, even in the media, that the government responsibility is to protect population and the properties of the people. But yet, we still see the reverse is true. We still see them burn down houses. We still see them, killing innocent people. You see them, and then looking for excuses to give. And if you want to stand to tell the truth, they become angry and they start to put a name over your head, to destroy you and to say that you are destabilizing the state. Which is the state? We should talk about the law. Is it lawful for our country to take a civilian to the military court without seeing them with arms? It's very wrong. But Mr. Babala, you cannot take a civilian to a military court without, when you see position of arms, that a civilian is carrying arms and other harmful, bombs and other things. You can take that to military court because those are military weapons that are supposed to be used by military men, not by civilian. But you cannot just accuse, a servant of God like that and then take him next day you are carrying to the military court. It's unfair. We the clergy, we are saying that the government should immediately release that priest immediately without no precondition, because it is not something that we should take delight on what the government do. The government have done too much, because my worry is that some of these men, these state men, you see them here when they go into churches. How are they pretending the place that they are going to fellowship? That's hypocrisy.
Right, in the far north region of the country, the security situation is also worsening, and information streaming into a newsroom indicates that at least 3 divisions of the far north are experiencing a sharp increase in Boko Haram activities, and administrative authorities, including like the senior division, including the senior divisional officer of the Mayo Chanaga division, sending distress calls.
Yeah. The issue of Boko Haram, I would say, it's a very deplorable situation that we find ourselves in, the Boko Haram situation in the north. But what I will have to say is that the government should be truthful to himself. The government should be realistic in its action. When we send our missing personnel in the field and we give the instructions, and they start to violate those instructions, and the head of those military personnel, military personnel, they're not taking actions, it becomes something else. Because in the same north, we have, we realize that some military personnel, they go to the field, they show a lot of indiscipline in their services. For example, you see them, raping, all those things happen in the field, for looting people's houses, accusing people falsely, and then, breaking down people's houses that are in the name of either they're keeping Boko Haram or they have information they don't want to give them. I believe that, for a military personnel intelligence to operate, fully and in a smooth manner, they need a cordial relationship between the population and the military and the government, and that is not going through intimidation. It cannot happen through intimidation. It cannot happen through, suppressing. It cannot happen, through arrogancy. It is something that we have to understand ourselves. And if at all you discover that this person is doing this, is the right or the law to like that, be the person to to report that being, to the police or the ground station, and question the person why the person is doing that, or what happened that he have the information and not able to release the information.
That relationship is sour
between the government
and some top military officials in the southwest and northwest regions have been trying to kind of revive that close relationship with some civil or military activities. Now, some 10-20 women have written to the UN asking for the intervention of that organization, and some other women have also written saying that they are rejecting that later and so on. What do you think about these actions?
I believe that what the women did, it was very correct. And that's what we should be busy doing now, because the government feel that they have all the mechanism that it takes, to do things the way it deems fit. Because I cannot We cannot, I mean, Mr. Babel, I'm shocked that we have a war that is going on for 5 years. The National Assembly cannot sit down and talk about this, about what is going on North and Southwest, and then come out with a resolution. When we are talking about rebuilding North and Southwest, it was supposed to be a budget voted in the House of Assembly, but nothing has been done. So the women that wrote to the UN, at least they are, to me, I give them kudos. I encourage them to do that. And those that are saying that they want to curtail the government are being sponsored by the government, because that's what they are used to. You know, they are used to doing. They try to make the world to know that what they are doing is right. When they ask, they know that what they are doing is not helping the country. It's not helping the nation.
Reverend B. Christian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you too very much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.